if you are making, coming back to oral presentation, you have to, of your work um, in a conference, in a meeting, you know, then you have to, I'm now very specifically focusing on the academic presentations, particularly the research output, whether it is done by you or it is done by somebody else. You are making a paper presentation, then there should be a title of the work which you are presenting. So title, who has done it, where it was done. So all those things should come in the very first slide. And then introduction, the brief introduction or the background of the work, which is very, very important. And towards the end of this section of background or introduction, you should highlight the objectives. What are the major objectives of the work which you have done or you are going to make a presentation? Somebody else. So objective, background, towards the end, the objectives. That's very, very important. And then what kind of methodologies and materials being used, that you have to mention very clearly. And then the important section of the results, the kind of experimentation done, and how the experiment was done, and what is the data, and what is the interpretation of the data. That's very, very important. So interpretation of the data has to be mentioned after each experimental result you make a presentation. So this is very, very important aspect of the presentation. That is what has been done, how it has been done, and what is the result, and what is the interpretation of those results. And then the second, third, fourth, like that. So in a sequence, you have to give the details of all the data or the experimental details which you plan to, or one plans to give or present to the audience. Okay, and then towards the end. And when you are presenting the results, you have to discuss these results in the light of what others have done. How your results are in agreement with others, or they are different than what others have observed. And if they are different, then what is the explanation you have for your results, which are different than what others have observed? So that's very, very important, because you may observe something which is different than what others have been, and there is always an explanation. So be ready with that, that how your results are different from what others have been observing and reporting, And if nobody has reported anything on that theme, and you are the first one, then you can very emphatically claim that this is the work, pioneer work, which you have done, and that is what the set of experiments done, and this is the data observed, and this is the explanation for this, and you can say that this is the first time we have observed and we are reporting. So that is, and then towards the end, the conclusion, the last couple of slides you can keep for. So this is the oral presentation, okay, in a conference, in a classroom, and to any audience, technical audience you are. Now, again, past 2-3 decades, see the number of people engaged in a particular area are increasing. And in any conference, you have the time, 3-day seminar or 5-day seminar, international. Internationals are 5 days actually. Still, the amount of response they get, it is very difficult to accommodate everybody for oral presentations. So now, in last 3 decades, the concept of poster presentation has come. I mean, most of the scientists, they are given an opportunity to make a poster presentation. And I don't know if you will get many opportunities as you go along in your career to see in conferences, and in fact, poster presentations are better than the oral presentations in a way that here you can have one-to-one communication with your audiences, whomsoever comes and goes through your poster and then discusses with you. Those are the people who are interested in the kind of research you have done, and they go for one-to-one discussions, rather than you making a presentation, then after that, couple of people asking questions, and that's it, So best way of making a scientific presentation nowadays is the poster presentations. So coming to how to make poster. See, like oral presentation, here also you have a limitation of time. See, in these conferences, you get 15-minute slot, you have got 20-minute slots or 25-minute slots, and you have to restrict to your presentation to that time slot. You can make 15 slides, 20 slides, depending on the time you have been given. Similarly, when it comes to poster has a size. That size is given to you, and you have to write. Here things have to be written, and a poster has to be made. How many of you have seen a poster presentation? Can anybody respond to? Have you seen poster presentations?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think then my job is slightly easier. But only thing, if you have seen people presenting posters, okay, let me put it that way, then you understand what I'm talking. But again, if you would have noticed that some people make good posters. Now, when I say good poster, doesn't mean that it is professionally done and somebody else making it for them and things like that. Good means it should be in the whatever information you want to give to the audience should be there and very clearly written. Again, the things which one should have in a poster are the same what you have in the oral presentations, in the sense the title of the work, the affiliations, the authors or the workers, those who are involved in that, and then the short introduction. Same. It follows the same pattern, methods, and the results, the key results you can mention, and then the conclusion, and the acknowledgements, etc. And very briefly, couple of important references, you can put very, very important references, not a whole lot of things. So here also one has to keep in mind that you just write very briefly. If I'm talking about introduction or the background of the work, it should be very briefly mentioned, and in the form of bullets, which if somebody comes and looks at it, you can elaborate, in one-to-one discussion. There can be one person or can be 4 people coming and is listening to you. You have to explain to them. Similarly, when it comes to results, you don't have to write a whole lot of things. You can draw graphs, you can draw pictures, photos, and then very neatly labeled. Each thing should be labeled with the title of the result or the objective of the result in one line, and then what is the data you obtained, and briefly in one line, what is the conclusion of that experiment. So like that, if you are including 4 or 5 good experiments, you can put all the results there in the poster, like that. So one has to be very uh, very specific and to the point, because the space is limited of the poster. You just cannot afford to uh, go around. So you have to remain focused. If it is that you are talking about background of the work, or the results, or the conclusions you're drawing based on that. Okay. So, and then the legibility means the kind of font size you are using. I have seen the students or the poster presenters, I should say, that use that term. Sometimes they use very small font size, and which a person has to go very close to the poster to read, actually. So one should not do that. You should use at least a person standing 2 feet or 3 feet, 4 feet away can read, and understand what you have. So it's very, very important to decide the font sizes. And again, nowadays, you guys are better off because this kind of support is there. There are people, you don't have to really make yourself. There are professionals, they help you, you have to pay them, that's all. You give them contents and they will design a good poster for you. So that is also there. But some people do it, some students do themselves also,